Hello folks, and welcome to the lab. Today we are making two solutions, a copper sulfate solution and a sodium hydroxide solution. We're making 100 milliliters of a 0.1 molar solution of both of these substances. Now the first thing we need to recognize is that we never make solutions in beakers, never. Also, I'm not going to add a certain volume of water to the solid. Instead, I'm going to use very specific glassware that is designed for making solutions. We're going to use a volumetric flask. And volumetric flasks come in all sizes. So here's just a couple that you can take a look at. So you can see they come large and come larger than that even, and they come even very tiny. So we want to use a volumetric flask, which is going to be the size, which is going to be the appropriate size of the solution we want to make. So today we're making a 100 milliliter solution, and so therefore I'm going to use the 100 milliliter volumetric flask. Now how do I know that it's 100 milliliters? Of course it says it on the flask itself, and there is the 100 milliliter mark on the neck. There are no other markings on this flask, so we cannot use it for any other volume. It is designed only to make a 100 milliliter solution. All right, so since we're using copper sulfate is a solid, so we're going to have to measure out the appropriate mass of the copper sulfate needed, and the sodium hydroxide is going to come as a 1.5 molar solution, and therefore I will have to determine what volume of this I'm going to need. All right, hopefully you've already calculated that, so I'm going to go ahead with the process. So I need to measure out a certain mass of copper sulfate. So I'm going to place a small weigh boat on the balance. I'm going to tare it. That means I'm going to zero it. And then I'm going to go ahead and measure out the mass of the copper sulfate. Okay, so I've measured out the appropriate amount, and now I'm going to go ahead and add it to my flask. With this, I can take my small weigh boat and I can pinch it, and I can then get all of that solid into my flask. Now to make sure that I got it all in, I'm going to take my squirt bottle and I'm going to rinse my weigh boat. All right, so at this point I have all of the solid is in my flask. Now I'm ready to add some water. So I'm going to add some water. I like to do this at an angle so I don't make any spills. Now I'm going to fill it up so that the bulb is only half full, And this now gives me space in the flask in order to swirl. The beauty of the very long neck in a volumetric flask is that you can swirl and swirl and swirl, even quite vigorously, and it will not come out of the top. So I'm swirling until all of the solid is dissolved. If I had filled the bulb completely, I would not be able to swirl. And therefore, by leaving the bulb only half full at this point, it allows me to be able to swirl. So I can stop the swirling and check. It's not quite dissolved yet. All right, it looks like it is finished. So now I'm going to go ahead and add some more water to fill the bulb. But I'm going to be very, very careful because I don't want to go up the neck. So at this point here, my bulb is full, my 100 milliliter mark is right there, and I need to add a little bit more water to get to the 100 milliliter mark. If I go beyond it, then I have to start all over, and I don't want to. All right, we're at the 100 milliliter mark. So at this point, my first solution is complete. I now need to cover it. I'm going to cover it with a piece of parafilm. This is stretches. I'm going to stretch it over, and I'm going to make it a tight seal. And now I have to make a label to my solution. And my solution should be labeled to indicate the contents and the concentration. So this is a 0.1 molar copper sulfate solution. So I'm putting the label on, and there is my finished product. Now I'm ready to move on to the next solution. It is 100 milliliters of a 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide. I am going to use a concentrated solution. So this is a pre-made solution that I found in the storage room. It is 1.5 molar, but I need 0.1 molar. So therefore, I need to measure out a certain volume of this liquid and place it in this flask. What volume should I measure out? Well, you should have already calculated that I need 6.70 milliliters, and I'm going to use a pipette to do this. So here is the pipette that I'm going to use. It is a 10 milliliter pipette. 10 is measured at the bottom and 0 here at the top. So I'm going to measure out 6.7 milliliters. So I'm going to draw up 6.7 milliliters. And that means it's reading 3.3 from the top, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer it to the other flask, into the volumetric flask. Now I'm going to go ahead and add water, just like in the other solution. I'm going to go ahead and add water until it is half full. I'm going to swirl, but it's not super critical in this case because it's not a solid. It's already in solution. Again, I'm going to fill until the bulb is complete or nearly so. Looks like I need more water. I'm going to be careful. The mark in this case is higher in the neck than in the previous one, so it's up here. So again, I want to start going up the neck, but I don't want to get to that 100 milliliter mark. Instead, now I'm going to go ahead and use my squirt bottle to get the final amount of water in here that I need, ensuring that I do not go beyond the mark on the flask. There it is. It is now finished. It is also going to get a piece of parafilm. And now I've finished making the second solution, and I'm ready to label it. And it is a 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide solution. And there is my second solution I've just finished making. And I am finished my task for today.